If you commute by bike, you want it to be reliable. In this video, I'll be showing you how to look after your bike and keeping it running well. I'm Michelle, and I believe cycling should be simple and fun, because the more you cycle, the better life is. In this video, I'll be going over how to look after your bike, cleaning it, checking it over, and how often you should get it serviced. If you want to know more about items I mentioned in this video, be sure to check the description box below. And don't be shy, if you have any questions, do ask in the comments below. I get to as many as I can, and we have a lot of experienced cyclists in the ride-on community who will probably also be happy to help you. And be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, where I have a tip for you on how to get more mileage out of your cassette. If you look after your bike, not only will it be more reliable, but it will be more fun to ride too. So let's start with cleaning your bike. You don't need a lot of fancy tools to clean your bike. A large bucket, a large sponge, some cleaning up liquid from your kitchen will do, or you can get the bike-specific stuff. A toothbrush, an old rag, degreaser for your chain and cassette, and a chain cleaner. So you can get a fancy sprocket, one full of sprockets and things, or you can get the 2-pound sponge that you slot your chain in between and douse with some degreaser. And then you'll need some lube for when your chain is clean. Over the years, I've added a few extra things in my arsenal, but actually I mostly just use the stuff I just mentioned, but I have some fancy brushes now, and these wipes I use. I find the wipes are really handy because my road bike is a matte frame, and it just helps me do the detailing when I'm doing a deep clean on my bike. So that's all you'll need, nothing fancy. The first thing you want to do is clean your chain and cassette. So douse the cassette with some degreaser. This is when it helps to have a spray bottle for degreaser. And then clean your chain with your chain cleaner method of choice. And once all that's done, then you can take warm soapy water in the sponge, clean your frame. Taking the wheels off can help if you're doing a deep clean to get those forks, get hard to reach bits underneath the fork. And once you've got all the dirt off your bike, you can get some clean water or use your hose to rinse it. I use the rag to then dry the frame down. Then I let my bike sit and dry, because before I can apply the lube, I need to make sure the chain is completely dry. And the one thing most people do is they apply too much lube on their chain. So the lube is just for the bits, the moving bits that touch on your chain, not the outside of the chain. If you have too much lube on your chain, all it's going to do is attract dirt to your chain, which is going to wear it down faster. So when you apply the lube, let it soak in for a while, and then give your chain a good rub down to make sure the excess is removed. Checking over your bike. The main 2 pieces of advice I have for you is don't ride your bike if anything is loose on it. Sort it out. It could cause you problems jamming your wheels, jamming your drivetrain, just generally be a distraction for you when you're riding. The other advice is if you hear a noise, not likely to magically just go away. So try to identify the noise and sort it out. It's a warning sign from your bike. It could be as simple as putting some lube on your chain or tightening a screw, or it could be something more serious that needs attention from a mechanic. So be sure to identify it and address it as soon as you can. So it's a good idea to check over a few things on your bike regularly. Make it part of a monthly routine that you do, maybe on Sunday night, getting ready for work. Some of the things you want to have to be able to do your bike check. You'll want a chain measure is a good idea to have, very handy. If you own a bike, you should have a track pump at home. You need to check your tire pressure regularly, and a track pump is not very expensive, and it's a very handy thing to have. You'll want a good set of Allen keys. I have these fiddle sticks. I've had them for years. They're very handy because they're long and you can get good leverage on them. A multi-tool for your rides, a hand pump for your rides, tire levers for removing your tires on rides and at home. And the last thing I have is a torque wrench. So on your bike, there's indicators of how tight you should tighten things, and it's especially important on a carbon bike. You don't want to over-tighten. You don't want to over-tighten anything on any bike, but the torque wrench will help you more accurately tighten things on your bike in the correct way. The things you want to be checking regularly on your bike are your wheels. So you want to check them over for any cracks, anything actually lodged into the tire. I have some footage here of actually my road bike. There is actually something lodged in it. Now with this bike, I have inserts in the tires, so I'm not too concerned about that in the sense that I have extra protection in this particular tire. But if there's anything lodged in there, you want to get it out. If you're starting to see a lot of cracks and nicks like this on your tire, you're going to want to think about replacing them. Continental tires, you'll see next to the nick, the 2 nicks in this tire, 2 other little holes. Nathan's bike also has Continental tires and has the same 2 little holes. And they're wear indicators, because as you can see, these tires are pretty slick. There's not a lot of tread to go by. So those holes are indicating the wear on your tires. There's nothing wrong with them. When you're looking at other tires, you're looking for tread wear. So I'll show you my Brody's got marathon tires, looking good, lots of tread. Nathan's rear tire, and the rear tire is usually the one that takes the more wear and tear because you've got most of the weight on that rear tire. As you can see, Nathan's tread's pretty low and he weighs more than me, so he goes through tires faster as well. So everyone out there who's little, it saves you money. And yeah, so keep an eye on your treads. Next up, you want to check your brakes. You want to make sure they've got some good solid braking power. If you're pulling the lever too far, too much, that's probably a sign that you need tightening. You don't notice it when you're riding because it happens slowly, but if your lever ever touches your handlebar, it's gone way past needing attention. So check your brakes, make sure they work, and that the levers, that the brake's engaging pretty soon into your using the levers. You want to make sure your pedals do spin. They should spin freely, and also check your wheels. So checking your wheels, if you spin them, you're looking for wobble, and that's a sign that your wheels need to be trued. You're also looking that they spin freely. So your wheels should spin freely for a very long time. If they're grinding to a halt, it probably is showing something is either needing truing or your brakes need adjusting, that there's some rubbing going on somewhere. The other thing you can do is check your fork. Your fork needs to be solid. There shouldn't be any rattling coming from that, so you can test that by really putting both brakes on and rocking your bike, seeing if there's any movement in your fork. And then a really handy thing to have is a chain checker, so you can measure your chain and see if you need to replace it. Replacing a chain is actually pretty easy if you have a chain breaker, so I recommend trying it. It's sort of the first thing I learned maintenance-wise to do on my own. And so yeah, you measure your chain and the indicator on the chain will tell you if you should replace it or not. In fact, there's an app that will help keep track of that for you. I'll link it below. So next time I get a chain, I'm going to load it into that app, and then it keeps track of your mileage on Strava, and then it gives you a warning that you need to replace parts. So it's very handy. I have my bottom bracket in that app, and it did warn me the other day that it needs greasing. So it's a pretty cool app. And then lastly, I recommend you check your tire pressure quite regularly, more than once a month. Once a week probably would be good. On a Sunday night as you're packing your bag for work, it's a good time to do it. But yeah, keep an eye on that tire pressure. You don't want to be riding too low, it's inefficient. And yeah, so keep an eye on your tire pressure, probably weekly I would suggest. So the last thing is servicing your bike. How often should you get your bike serviced? Well, it depends on a couple of things. Mostly how often and how far you ride it. So the more miles you put on your bike, the more often you're probably going to need to get it checked. Some people can probably go, 9 or more months if they ride it very infrequently or only short distances. I prefer to get mine checked, regardless of how much I'm riding it, twice a year. So because I have more than one bike, my Brody, for example, doesn't see as much mileage as it used to because my commute in Bristol is shorter and I sometimes take the Brompton. But I still have the same routine for that bike. I get it checked twice a year, and I get it checked before the clocks go back in October, so it's ready for the winter and I know it's safe when it's going to be dark on the road. And then at the end of the year, after the clocks change back again for spring and summer, I get the bike checked so that I know it's in good riding condition after all the harsh winter riding in the rain and salt on the road and all that stuff. So that's how I do it, twice a year, before the clocks change and after they change on the other end. Makes it easy for me to remember, and I just know it's in good riding condition then when the seasons change. A basic service for a commuter bike, not including any parts that you need, is about £35. So for me, £70 a year for my transport I think is a good investment, and it avoids any annoying breakdowns on my commute. And however, if before you have your bike serviced, you have any sounds you're concerned about, still take your bike into the shop and have them look at it. Don't wait. Just best to deal with those things as and when they come up. So I promised you a bonus this video on how to get more mileage out of your cassette, and that will be don't do what I did on my road bike. So when you measure your chain, it gives you a gauge on it, 0.5 or 0.75 or worse if you're me. And if you replace it at the 0.5, you can replace your chain 3 times, they say, before you need to replace the cassette. An indicator of the cassette needing replacing is sharpened teeth or skipping gears. So they say if you replace it at 0.5, you can get 3 chains worth of riding out of 1 cassette. If you wait for more than that, they recommend you replace both the chain and the cassette at the same time. So it's obviously cheaper to replace a chain than a cassette, quite a bit more on some bikes actually. And the other way to get more mileage and wear out of your chain and cassette is to make sure they are clean. I know I'm guilty on my commuter in the winter. I have no interest in going out in the cold, in the dark, and cleaning my bike. So I keep an eye on it, make sure to keep it lubed, wipe the chain down occasionally, and if there's warm enough weather, I get outside. No thorough cleanings, but you know, a quick clean and chain, especially the chain, getting that clean and keeping that clean. It's less wear and tear on the parts, so you get more mileage out of them. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, be sure to subscribe for more new cyclist videos coming up. The next one's about how to make your bike more comfortable, so if that's of interest to you, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when that's out. I'll link the rest of the series up there for those of you that are coming along after I've completed the series. And if you know any new cyclists that you think might find this information helpful, do share it with them with the share button below. As always, thanks for watching, and until the next video.